What's good, everybody? This is Robo from Allbark, back with another video. Today in the channel, I'm shifting into football season a bit, going over my college football preseason top 25, and breaking down a little bit of my thoughts on each team, as well as a few of the teams that just missed the list. I'm personally a huge college football guy. I watch as many games as possible and keep tabs on teams throughout the year. My loyalty lies with the Michigan Wolverines, of course, as you can see by my shirt and my chair here. With that said, I think it's time to go ahead and start with the rankings, beginning with the teams that just missed on my top 25, but deserve a look still. Maryland is an interesting team this year with some solid potential, but just in a stacked division that pretty much guarantees them 3 losses. But some solid playmakers around Talia Tagovailoa and a solid revamped secondary should have the Terps looking ahead to an 8 or 9 win season. Miami is led by a solid defense led by Leonard Taylor Jr. and an offense led by a potential NFL quarterback in Tyler Van Dyke, who had a lot of hype around his name previously but didn't deliver it all last season. And for Miami to be a top 25 team this upcoming year, he'll have to perform at the level some believe he can. UCLA is a sleeper team in the Pac-12 this season who will likely be led by true freshman 5-star quarterback Dante Moore out of Detroit King High School in Michigan. The former Oregon commit will have to perform better than most freshman quarterbacks do in order for UCLA to make a run for a conference title, but he has the talent and the tools to deliver those results. Texas Tech is another solid team I definitely could have ranked, with starting quarterback Tyler Show leading the way to a nice offensive attack, and with the Big 12 being fairly open this year, the Red Raiders have a shot to make some noise. The final team outside of my top 25 is the Wisconsin Badgers, led by new head coach Luke Fickell, who brought Cincinnati to the college football playoffs. And thanks to the transfer portal, he landed a solid quarterback for the season in Tanner Mordecai out of SMU, paired with one of the top 5 backs in the country in Braylon Allen, and of course a solid defense that can help the team push for a Big Ten West crown. Starting at the top 25 rankings is the Gamecocks of South Carolina, led by senior quarterback Spencer Rattler, who ended the 2022 season on a high note and looks to build off of it, returning to position himself into a better draft position this season. He's got a solid weapon in Antoine Wells, who's a name to remember, along with tight end Trey Knox, who's one of the better tight ends in the SEC, but the offensive line was the weak spot last season and needs to be better this year. Defensively, South Carolina has to be stronger this season and continue to force turnovers, as well as stop the run, as they're led by defensive tackle Tonka Hemingway up front, who's an absolute unit. Next up at number 24 is another SEC team, Ole Miss, led by quarterback Jackson Dart and my second-ranked running back in the nation, Quinshon Judkins. Just an elite runner who has a bright NFL future and some solid running mates to alleviate the pressure all season, as well as Zachary Franklin, who can lead the target share for Jackson Dart in the passing game to help balance out that offense. Defensively, Ole Miss is led by linebacker Kerry Coleman, who will have to perform well against elite teams in the SEC, as the schedule's tough as always, and it starts with him in the middle getting them off the field as quick as possible to give the offense a chance to take down those SEC giants. Coming in at number 23 is the Tulane Green Wave, who are coming off a big upset bowl win over the USC Trojans last season and are led again by quarterback Michael Pratt and a solid offensive line. They're replacing some skill position guys, but they brought in Liberty transfer Shedro Lewis, who can both boost the run and receiving game for the Tulane offense with a ton of speed and agility in the backfield. Tulane's replacing a lot of defenders as well, but a solid portal haul may have them back in position to be one of the top group of 5 teams in the country. At number 22 is the Florida Gators, led by head coach Billy Napier, who's deciding on a quarterback battle between Wisconsin transfer Graham Mertz and Ohio State transfer Jack Miller. Regardless of who wins the battle, they've got a solid running back duo, including Trevor Etienne, the younger brother of former Clemson and current Jaguar Travis Etienne. The defense may be a question mark as Florida struggled at times there, but with corner Jason Marshall and edge threat Princey Umanmielen, Florida may be in for an improving season with a great 2024 class coming in, waiting to join that new-look Gator squad behind Billy Napier. Number 21 goes to the Kansas State Wildcats, led by new starter Will Howard, replacing Adrian Martinez, who shined at times last year, leading Kansas State to a Big 12 title win over national runner-up TCU. Howard comes in with a great offensive line led by maybe the best guard in the country, Cooper Beebe. They're also replacing Deuce Vaughn, which is very tough to do considering his skill and production, but they brought in Florida State transfer Tershawn Ward to help replace the speed and quickness Duke brought the offense at the running back position. Defensively, Kansas State will be replacing a star-studded defensive line, including a first-rounder, but the secondary should be fine, led by safety Kobe Savage. Number 20 is a team I'm hoping for a better season from. It's the North Carolina Tar Heels, led by potentially a top 5 pick in Drake May. May will likely be throwing to Devontae Walker a lot this season, as he may be the one to replace Josh Downs and Antoine Green, but the biggest question mark is going to be if the offensive line can keep the pocket clean for May this season to get to work and get the offense going. The defense is led by thumper linebacker Cedric Gray and a great corner in Elijah Huzzy. However, the rest of the unit has a lot of work to do to prove that they've gotten better over the offseason and can help lead North Carolina back to ACC contention with an elite quarterback at the helm. Number 19 is an always solid team thanks to elite defensive play, the Iowa Hawkeyes. The reason Iowa may be a bit different this year is because of Michigan transfers Cade McNamara and Eric All, who look to reshape the Hawkeye offensive scheme and get more points on the board, taking some pressure off the Iowa defense and punting unit to dominate for 4 quarters. Now, even if the offense still isn't eye-opening because of the Ferentz system, the defense should still be able to get the job done in most games, as they're again led by stellar defenders in Cooper DeJean and Nick Jackson, and of course the nation's best punter, Torrey Taylor. At number 18, I've got the Oklahoma Sooners coming off a rough 6-7 season, including a loss to Texas in Brent Venables' first year as head coach. This will be UCF transfer Dylan Gabriel's second year, and they brought in a couple new receivers to help him out, but he seems to be lacking a wide receiver 1 currently. Defensively, the pass rush needs to improve, but they've got some solid guys on that side of the ball, including Ethan Downs and Rondell Bothroyd, as well as stud linebacker Danny Stutzman to help reshape that Sooner defense into one that looks more like a Brent Venables defense. Coming in at number 17 is the Oregon State Beavers, led by Clemson transfer DJ Uiagalelei, who looks to show off his talents that originally made him a highly touted 5-star quarterback heading into Clemson in a much weaker defensive conference in the Pac-12. He's got a solid team to work with a great offensive tackle duo in Joshua Gray and Telius Fuaga, as well as a stellar running back in Damian Martinez, who may be a first-team All-Pac-12 contender this season. If the defense is as strong as last season, which was fairly surprising, and DJ breaks out as the quarterback he once was, the Pac-12 could be a really interesting conference to watch. Number 16 goes to the national runner-ups, the TCU Horned Frogs, who replace a ton on both sides of the ball, including the quarterback position with Max Duggan leaving, replaced by his backup Chandler Morris, who has shown he may have what it takes in the past, but now has a brand new unit around him with Quentin Johnson, Kendre Miller, and Amari DiMercado all gone. TCU did bring in a great transfer back in Alabama's Trey Sanders, who likely will be the RB1 for the Frogs and carry a large load of the offense. Defensively, it's almost a completely new group as well, but they still have a stud corner in Josh Newton and a great backer in Johnny Hodges to help bring some continuity to a new group looking to replace last year's success. Starting off the top 15 is the Oregon Ducks, led by Bo Nix, who opted to return for another year, which may have caused a Dante Moore decommitment, but Oregon has a real shot to win the Pac-12 this year with Nix as a leader again, along with an elite back in Bucky Irving, who's just as exciting as anyone in the running back position this year. Nix will target Troy Franklin a bunch, as he's probably the top receiver in this offense, but the Ducks season may come down to how the defense performs, with linebacker Jordan Burch helping to help slow down some of the elite Pac-12 offenses and fix the pass rush issues that were present last year without Kayvon Thibodeau. And the Oregon secondary has to replace stud corner Christian Gonzalez as well, so time will tell with the Oregon defense as to how good they can be and how good the team can be overall. At number 14, I have the Tennessee Volunteers, who very well could be a national title contender if Joe Milton is a hit at quarterback. He's arguably the most talented arm in all of college football, but the accuracy is a real concern that he'll have to prove has been worked on over the past few off seasons if he wants to help Tennessee continue what Hendon Hooker built last year. Brew McCoy will likely be the leader in the clubhouse at receiver for Joe Milton, who will not get to throw to NFL picks Jalen Hyatt and Cedric Tillman this season. The defense was okay last year, blowing up at times during some bigger games, but linebacker Aaron Beasley and safety Jalen McCullough are back and look to keep Tennessee heavily in the mix for SEC title contention, which is very possible if the secondary performs better than expected this year, and especially if Joe Milton is the elite as people say he could be. Coming in at number 13 is the Utah Utes, who beat the USC Trojans last year in the Pac-12 title game, led by star quarterback Cameron Rising. If Rising is healthy this season, Utah can absolutely repeat that feat, but that's probably the biggest question mark around the team this season, is if Rising is ready to go after the late injury against Penn State last year. Utah has studs all over the field, including offensive tackle Satoa Lamea and his trenchmate defensive tackle Junior Tafuna. And of course, it's not Utah without a great member of the secondary, with safety Cole Bishop leading the unit this season. The Texas Longhorns take my number 12 spot this year, as I'm expecting a great year out of Quinn Ewers, as he may be getting pushed by probably the best quarterback room in the country, with Malik Murphy and Arch Manning behind him waiting their turn. Ewers obviously still has Xavier Worthy to throw to, who is easily one of the best receivers in the country, and he also has arguably the best tight end in the Big 12 in Jatavion Sanders. If Texas can stay consistent this season, they've got a real shot to come away with the Big 12 and push for a playoff spot, although the schedule's tough once again, having to face Alabama this time on the road, so perfection in conference will probably be needed. The pass rush will struggle at times last year, and may be another question mark this season, but the defense will be led by stud linebacker Jalen Ford, who looks to be a potential high draft pick this year and lead the Longhorns to a Big 12 title. Number 11 on my top 25 goes to the Washington Huskies, thanks to a return from Michael Penix Jr., who may be one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the country, and along with him is a stud receiver duo coming back in Rome Oduns and Jalen McMillan. This season will likely come down to the same thing that plagued them last year, third down defense and forcing turnovers, as the offense will likely do its job every week. Defensive end Braylon Trice looks to lead the way to a better defensive season with a strong pass rush and the unit as a whole getting off the field much quicker than last season. The first spot of the top 10 goes to the Notre Dame Fighting Irish at number 10, with potential top 5 pick offensive tackle Joe Alt and another big-time riser in Blake Fisher, helping protect the new quarterback transfer Sam Hartman out of Wake Forest. Hartman is looking to be a major upgrade to the quarterback position and helping lead a Notre Dame team that surged at the end of last season to a much better start this year, which may end up setting them up for a potential playoff appearance if they're able to run the table and knock off USC. Defensively, the issue last year was the red zone defense, which ranked last in the entire country, and that cannot be the same this season if Notre Dame wants to reach its goals. Potential first-round cornerback Benjamin Morrison will have a big say in how far the Notre Dame defense will rise, as well as how the team performs week to week as a whole. At number 9 is a team I considered ranking higher, as I think people may have forgotten about them a bit, but it's the Clemson Tigers. Clemson would be led by Cade Klubnik, who took over the job halfway through the year last year and looked pretty solid, including a great bowl performance, which has a lot of Clemson fans excited for this year, potentially getting back to the playoffs as they once did almost every season in the past. A lot of that will come up to the defense continuing to be elite, as they're led by an elite linebacker group of Jeremiah Trotter Jr. and Barrett Carter, as well as an absolute monster in the middle of the line, including Tyler Davis, looking to replace what Brian Bresee brought to the Tiger defense. Offensive line is a huge question mark for the Clemson Tigers again this year, but if they can perform better and the offense figures out who the emerger will be at the receiver position, there's no doubt in my mind Clemson could become an elite team again. Florida State comes in at number 8 on my list, led by stud quarterback Jordan Travis, who has weapons all over the place, including an elite running back in Trey Benson, and potential first-round receiver Johnny Wilson, who stands at 6'6" or 6'7", and has great speed for that size as well. Keon Coleman was a big-time transfer sleeper pickup coming out of Michigan State, looking to be maybe the best wide receiver 2 in the country, as I believe he could be an early to mid-round pick in the upcoming NFL draft with a big year this season. Of course, Florida State has a solid defense last year, which was a bit surprising, but they may be able to replicate that success thanks to still having an elite edge rusher in Jared Verse to destroy offensive game plans each week. The schedule's rough this season, having to face LSU, Clemson, Pitt, Miami, and Florida, but the Seminoles could be able to run the table with the amount of talent they have and get into the playoffs to nobody's surprise. The USC Trojans take the number 7 spot, led of course by Caleb Williams, the nation's best quarterback, who's often deemed as the next Patrick Mahomes. No more Jordan Addison this season for USC, but Arizona transfer Dorian Singer and upcoming Mario Williams will be more than enough for Caleb to throw all over the Pac-12 defenses, leading to another Heisman-level season. USC's question mark will be on the defensive side of the ball. Will they improve in that aspect at all, or fall to teams they could have beaten because they didn't show up defensively? Star safety Kalen Bullock will be the leader of the secondary this year, and I think corner Damani Jackson could be a breakout candidate to help the secondary answer that question and perform at a higher level for USC this time around, taking some pressure off the offense to put up 50 points a night. The Penn State Nittany Lions come in at number 6, led by former 5-star quarterback Drew Aller, who looks to replace Sean Clifford and perform better than he did, leading Penn State into the playoffs with a loaded roster. Nick Singleton has a case to be a top 3 running back in the country, and Olu Fashanu is mocked in the top 5 or 10 of almost every 2024 NFL mock draft you can find. There's no doubt the offense should be elite this year for Penn State, and the defense should be the same, led by dynamic secondary with corner Kalen King and the usual elite front 7 Penn State always has. The question will be, can Penn State take down Michigan at home and Ohio State on the road this year, as they'll definitely have to beat one, if not both, to get into the Big Ten title game and the college football playoff this season. At number 5, I have the LSU Tigers, who I expect to bounce back to elite form under Brian Kelly in year 2, led by quarterback Jaden Daniels again, who may be a first-round pick after this season. He'll look to find Malik Neighbors consistently, as he has elite talent at the receiver position, and the duo could take over games this year. Defense will be where LSU sets the tone, with big bodies and speed just about everywhere, including one of the best linebackers in the country and Harold Perkins Jr. leading the way, and Mason Smith up front at defensive tackle. Linebacker Omar Spates comes in looking to add to that elite LSU defense, and if the secondary is better than last season and the offense can find consistency, LSU fans could be in for a really fun season with a lot of wins coming. Number 4 goes to the Alabama Crimson Tide, led by new starter Jalen Milroe, replacing top draft pick Bryce Young. We've seen a bit of Milroe, and he looks like the real deal, but the playmakers around him are a real question mark for Bama this season. They'll have to figure out who's going to step up and be his go-to targets when games get tough fairly quick. But in the meantime, I expect running back Jace McClellan to carry some of the offensive load behind an elite Bama offensive line. Another issue last season was penalties, which is super uncharacteristic of Nick Saban-led teams, but they'll have to do a better job of that this year if they want to get back into the playoffs. Defensive superstar Kool-Aid McKinstry leads the way as arguably the nation's top corner for Alabama this season, and his teammate Dallas Turner looks to have a big year and be the next star Alabama edge rushing linebacker to destroy offensive lines and get to this quarterback a ton this season. Number 3 is a team who has the talent to be number 1, but is also replacing a superstar quarterback in CJ Stroud with likely Kyle McCord. How good Kyle McCord is will tell the tale for Ohio State this season, and of course they'll be able to dominate just about everyone, but if he can't perform against Penn State and Michigan, Ohio State will not be playing for a national title. If he does break out as the next star Ohio State quarterback though, there's no reason they can't make that jump back to where they nearly were last season with Stroud. Obviously, the Buckeyes have McCord's high school teammate and nation's number 1 wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. as the game changer on offense, but don't sleep on his other option, Emeka Egbuka, who could be in for a monster season and will also likely be a first-round pick by year's end. Ohio State showing up in the defensive end against Penn State and Michigan will be very important as well, and JT Tuimoloau will be the one who has to come up to the task, leading the Buckeye defense to a stronger performance this season as they travel back to the Big House and try to avoid a three-peat against a loaded Wolverines team. Coming in at number 2, I have the Michigan Wolverines, who fell just short of a national title game appearance last season and returned almost the entire team outside of a few NFL picks on both sides of the ball. J.J. McCarthy may be in for a huge season, as head coach Jim Harbaugh has mentioned he looks to split the offense more evenly this season, rather than being run-heavy as they have been in the past. But of course, if they still are, they have Blake Corum back, the nation's top running back, as well as his spellman Donovan Edwards, who is also undoubtedly top 10 in the country at the position as well. Michigan will again have an elite offensive line in front of them, but the receiver position is yet again another question mark as they have to replace Ronnie Bell, as well as find out who will be the true wide receiver 1 in the offense and who can step up to be great consistent options for JJ to throw to without a pass being dropped this year. Defensively, Michigan looks absolutely loaded yet again, including maybe the nation's best corner in Will Johnson, along with the top national defensive tackle in Chris Jenkins, who plays along an absolutely loaded defensive line once again. The question on defense will be the depth at the corner position, as outside of Will Johnson and Mike Sainristil, the position has some holes currently. Rod Moore should be one of the best safeties in the country to help that secondary be strong again, but if Michigan wants to three-peat Ohio State, it'll need to find another corner before the battle in the Big House November 25th to cover both Marvin, Egbuka, and of course the other 5-star receivers Ohio State has. Grabbing the number 1 spot in the 2023 preseason top 25 is yet again the Georgia Bulldogs, who despite losing Stetson Bennett are still the Georgia Bulldogs. Replacing studs with studs is just what they do now, and there's no reason to expect anything else this season. Carson Beck will likely take the quarterback job to start the season, although there is a battle going on with Brock Vandagriff, but either quarterback will be throwing to a loaded offense with the best tight end in the country in Brock Bowers. Defensively, Georgia replaces a lot, but still has superstars Jamon Dumas Johnson and Javon Bullard to lead the new group of defenders into yet another top defensive performing season, as Georgia has both the talent and the schedule to be an undefeated team heading into the college football playoffs yet again. There are questions surrounding the quarterback play and the lack of experience elsewhere, but it's hard to not rank Georgia number 1 with how we've seen them easily replace elite players in the past and somehow get even better year to year, and they'll likely hold this spot at number 1 for the majority of the season, if not all of it, unless the quarterback play just isn't up to par for Kirby Smart to work with. Alright everybody, that does it for my college football preseason top 25 for the 2023 season. I'm super excited for the season to start here at the end of August, with Navy and Notre Dame kicking us off on August 26th. Less than a month away from another exciting year full of elite quarterbacks and some really fun offensive weapons, and hopefully a more competitive national title game this year compared to last. That's going to be it for this video though, guys. Thanks for watching once again. Feel free to like the video and subscribe if you aren't already, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace.